Hi and welcome once again to another Walker tea review, tea tasting. I'm Jason Walker. Before we get into today's tea, I did want to share a few comments. We do have some comments coming in either via Twitter through the website. Want to share one with you today from Chris, Vermont Knit Boy. This is a comment that he made, and it's a summary, quite lengthy comment. You can go online and go onto the website and check it out. It's under the Golden Dragon episode or tasting, and he talks about how he likes the new updates. We've changed our format a little bit. We've moved from just reviewing the teas over to appreciating and enjoying the teas together, so that you can order your teas, taste them with us, and add your comments and learn about the tea preparation styles that we use as well in that process. He talks about how he likes the updates, the close-ups, the views of some of the leaves, of the dry leaf, the wet leaf, things like the enhanced maps, so that you can actually go to a Google Maps and see where teas are produced, their source of origin. He talks about Golden Dragon in particular was a green tea. He talks about how greens, and we talked about how if you have a warmer temperature, you may be able to detect certain flavors, but if you let the teas cool down to room temperature, say, you may be able to detect different or more stronger variations in flavor. And he talked about how he noticed that he detected more nutty flavors, especially with green teas, after they were allowed to cool. He also talked about, which we notice as well, that a slurping process allows you to draw in more air. It allows you to you want to move your tongue around, slosh the tea in your mouth, similar to what wine tasters would do, because it allows all the taste buds around your tongue, over your tongue, to really get a sense of and detect some of those aromas and tastes in the tea, as opposed to just sipping and getting a little bit on the tip of your tongue. So that's an advantage. Thank you, Chris, for pointing that out. Today, we are going to be looking at TeasEtcGyokuro. And to do that, we have our tasting cup from Adagio that we're going to be using. By talking a little bit more here at the beginning, it also allowed our water to cool down. The traditional Japanese tea preparation activity or process heats the water, pours it, and then allows it to cool a little bit. Ideally, many people say that they get better results when their water is brought down to a temperature of roughly, on average, 180 degrees. So we've let our water cool somewhat. Some of the things we're going to be talking about, of course, is our dry leaf, our wet leaf, and our liquor, so that we can enjoy all the aspects of our tea. What you're going to notice here first is I'm getting out my trusty little teaspoon, and I've got a rather full spoon. Now, with a tea like this that's quite delicate, we're not going to steep it very long, so this may kind of interrupt our discussion of the dry leaf. Okay, so we're going to pour that in, and let that just kind of spread it around evenly over the bottom of the cup. We'll set that aside and come back to talk about that in just a minute. As we're doing this, you may already want to begin your pre-notes or your notes of the dry leaf. Remember that we always talk about, in the dry leaf process, we talk about the aromas, the colors, and the shapes or sizes, the way the leaf is shaped through the processing. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one started. We're going to slowly, I like to raise it up. It allows the water to cool slightly as it falls through. And we are pouring nearly to the bottom of the opening here. So we're going to set our water down. I'm cheating a little bit because I'm already getting a lovely aroma off of our wet cup there. Now, as we're going to keep an eye on that very closely, again, pause, if you haven't already, pause very briefly, extremely briefly, to make those final touches on your notes. Now, to go on to talk about the dry leaf, there are a couple of things we do want to look at. First, we want to get our whiff. Now, I'm getting a kind of kind of a cream spinach element. It's a sweetness to it, but yet it's a kind of a vegetal sweetness. It's what I associate with a very sweet, healthy, tender, young, green, creamed spinach. Okay. Now, the other thing you'll notice about our leaves here is that they are a dark, like a hunter green, Kelly green color. They are long and spindly in their shape. They're almost like needles. And you do, in this one, get a few pieces that are lighter, which indicates that these could have a little bit of stem activity in the process of the way it was handled and processed. Also, of course, it can be everything from say a half-inch type needle to very fine powdery substance. Okay, now we're going to have to bring that to a close because our liquid is ready to go already. We didn't want to steep this too long. Steeping it tends to bring out extended bitterness in it. So we want to be able to put our thumb in here, get a little bit of opening so it allows a little bit of air to pass through, and then quickly pour to reduce our dripping and spillage. Fortunately, we do have our towel over here to help us with a quick cleanup. We're allowing this to pour very fully. There we are. Now, we're going to set that aside, let that cool for just a few minutes. Dab up our water here. We're also going to be looking at our wet leaf, and of course to do our wet leaf, we're going to be talking about, again, aromas, and then any changes in the color of the leaf, or when the leaf was steeped, how does it unfurl? Does it change in its shape or appearance? So, open that up. Well, first thing, we better make a quick note. I hope you've caught up on your notes, because now are going to be moving on to talking about our wet leaf here. We're going to give a few sniffs, take it into each nostril, and then kind of take it in together. Give it 3 passes. Now, some of the things you're going to notice about the smell. I'll go ahead and take that off because we're going to talk about our appearance in just a minute. Things that you're going to notice about the smell. You should be finding some things that you can enjoy and appreciate about the smell. Some of the things you may have noticed already are the cream. It's almost like you can feel this creamy texture even as you just inhale it, which is something that you may want to kind of take a moment and savor for yourself. Second, you want to talk about a little bit of a kind of, this sounds odd, but I detect it makes me feel salty. Yeah, I almost get this whiff that yes, there's something coming that's going to be salty in this taste or this texture. Other things that we notice, yes, we do get that spinach taste that continues. That saltiness also kind of lends itself towards a almost like a seaweed aspect. So rather than just say, oh, this is grassy, we can talk about things like spinach and seaweed. We also detect how creamy, sweet, creamy that it can be. All right, now the other thing we said we're going to be looking at is our leaf itself. This time I'm going to use a spoon just because this can get rather bulky, thick, and it kind of does tend to take on the appearance of something like creamed spinach. But as you see, what we have here are lots of parts of leaves. You do see some parts that look like or resemble tender stem, very tender stem pieces. Yeah, see, sometimes you get a bit of the vein that slipped through. Now, some of your more delicate, extremely high price, high grade, they try to remove as much of the vein, the middle vein stem of the leaf as possible. Okay, this one still, you can tell by the color how dark it is. And we're going to also be talking about our color of our liquor here to tell the quality that this is still quite good quality, or at least it gives that indication so far. Now, before we move on, of course, we're going to be talking about our liquid. And again, as we talk about our liquid, we're going to be talking about the color, so you can make some notes on the color. the aromas that you get, the astringency level, bitterness, if there's any bitterness, the texture, is it brothy? Is it thick? Is it soupy? Is it thin like water? Aftertaste, the taste that you get at the beginning of your tasting versus the taste that you get after you swallow and finish. Do they change? Other things that you may want to talk about are how long is the aftertaste? So those are some of the notes that you want to make as we proceed in just a moment. First thing, as we're ready to move on, you're going to notice, look at this color. Now this is a nice lime green color that we have here. Okay, bright. I like the color there, so that's something to admire. And of course, this is the color that you get from a brief steeping that we did. Okay. Next, of course, we're going to give it a taste and a smell. Still, same similar smells that we got from our wet leaf. It's quite nice. Okay. Now for a little bit of slurp. And just as Chris mentioned, that we talked about previously, let it go all over your tongue. Get it everywhere in your mouth. You'll detect more the more you let it swish around. Raise your tongue, move it up, down, to the sides. Let the tea go all the way around it. Yeah. Now, one thing you notice, the thing that strikes me first is the creamy texture, that kind of brothy texture that it has about it. As it hits the back, you also get a bit of, it almost feels salty, and yet it still has a kind of a sweet smell, aroma to it. As it finishes off, that saltiness kind of stands out a little bit more. Other things that you may detect, like we talked about, temperature changes can affect. You may get a hint of, like we said, that seaweed, that salty seaweed element, and then underneath that or on the side, you get a little bit of a kind of like a lemon peel, a little bit of a zestiness to it. Okay, but and on top of all that, of course, you get that creamy vegetable spinach aspect to it. Okay, we're going to have to give this one another try. See, just as we've allowed it to cool a little more, see if anything else pops up. Very pleasant. Again, aftertaste is consistent, not a lot of fluctuation, just some spikes of one flavor while the other kind of gently fades. One tends to stay a little bit longer while the other fades. They don't fade at exactly the same time as far as taste in your mouth. So, given the quality of our leaf, given the texture, taste, and that bright, vibrant color that we had there in our cup, this one's fairly smooth. This is what we came to expect. We had our textures, we had our colors, our aromas that we were looking for, and that Gyokuros are known for. A little bit of background I'm going to add here at this point because I had forgotten to add it put it in earlier. Gyokuro, let me think. From the Uji region, predominantly from the Uji region of China. Okay, so that's south of Kyoto. That's something you may want to look for. Although I don't recall TeasEtcetera really saying that theirs specifically came from that region. Okay. Other things we may want to note that we did not add before I forget. TeasEtcetera, they are currently, last time I checked, a day or two ago, currently sold out, but 1 ounce of their 1 ounce package usually runs for $12.95. Okay, so that's something you may want to look at as well. So to add all this together, let's put a score on this. Hope you've enjoyed tasting this with us. Did you detect anything as the tea cooled down? Okay, let us know. What did you find? Were some flavors or aromas stronger for you? Overall, Teas Etc's Gyokuro gets a 90. So, hope you enjoy this. Next time we're going to be looking at, let me make sure I get this right, special teas. They have a first flush Darjeeling that we're going to be looking at. So, Jason Walker, Walker Tea Review.